December and the end of the year is coming, and we need to do a best of the year episode because that's only normal and natural.
Everybody, welcome to the Dungeon of Deadly Delights, episode 18. I'm one of your hosts, Rob DiLauro, and of course with me, as always, is Holly. Holly, what is going on tonight?
Hello. Well, we were kind of wondering what to do for this episode because we didn't really have anything lined up, and then we realized that it's December and the end of the year is coming, and we need to do a best of the year episode because that's only normal and natural, and we have a lot of time.
You know, and also too, like, you know, one of the great things about this year, I remember, like, you know, there was a time where, like, things, you know, especially, like, when we were growing up and stuff, like, things were so scarce, you know, in terms of, you know, popular culture and just, like, horror in general. And, you know, just recently in the past couple of years, especially this year, like, there's been such, you know, there's just so much to choose from, you know, and things that are so exciting and so surprising. You know, like, you know, there's a couple, you know, that we're going to be talking about, of course, on the list. But, you know, the fact that, and we mentioned this before, the fact that there's, like, a creep show on TV is just, like, it's mind-blowing. It really is. And I think a lot of people look that gift horse in the mouth, and they're just like, oh, well, that episode sucks, or the whole fucking series sucks. And it's like, dude, you have no idea how lucky we are as fans. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with The Mandalorian, too. It's like, oh, that show sucks now because somebody saw a boom mic in one of the episodes. It's like, I don't know, fandom really drives me nuts.
I agree. Everybody has to bitch about something. But we're not going to bitch this episode. We're just going to gush.
Yes, but, you know, in honor of our lovely and powerful savior, Baby Yoda, we'll keep things on a peaceful tip.
Mascot of the holiday season.
May Mando be with you and also with you. Okay, so we were going to go through, like, you know, just a list of things that we really enjoyed this year in comics and TV and, of course, film. And we're probably going to talk more extensively about the film side of things, simply because there was a lot of really great cinema that came out this year, especially in the horror genre. I know that there's an article that just came out not too long ago, past couple hours actually, you know, and it was basically that there's obviously two on my list that Quentin Tarantino also appreciates and loves too, which is awesome. It makes me feel like, you know, hey, I know what the fuck I'm talking about, you know, like, because I praised both of those films very, very highly. So Holly, what should we start off with? I say we start off with comics because, you know, that's your favorite thing to talk about. And
oh yeah, I'm just down to start out with comics.
Yeah.
I'm a comic nerd, as some of you may or may not know. I write comics, I read comics. Their comic book business is a huge part of my life. And before we get into my favorite horror comics that came out this year, I just want to do a little self-pimpage and mention that this series that I've been writing for Black Mask Studios, it's been long delayed. It's taken a really long time for the new issue to come out for a myriad of reasons. But basically, it's a really intense project because each issue is 64 pages and it's all black and white, and so that's a really it's a rise and fall rockstar story, but due to the medium, the black and white, the length of it, it's really hard sell,
And it's been I don't mean to cut you off, but I was a huge fan of like a lot of indie comics growing up, because like we're a little older, but like that actually that artwork and stuff that you guys have like really reminds me of like, say, like Strangers in Paradise or something like that.
Yeah, one of the first reviews compared it to Love and Rockets, which was incredibly
Love and Rockets too, yeah, hell yeah,
incredibly flattering. Yeah. But essentially, it was originally planned to be 4 issues, and the 3rd issue is in previews right now. But we don't have a plan for the 4th issue, just because it has been such a difficult project to market and get behind. And basically, this is my plea. I'm not above begging that you give the book a shot. That they're also making the first 2 issues available again in case you missed them. Just go to your comic shop, or even buy it online, buy it at Black Mask. Just give it a shout out to your comic shop owner. Tell them to order some copies, because the better it does, the more of a chance there is of there being a finale issue, which is really what there needs to be, in my opinion. So anyway, we were going to, obviously we're talking about comics now. So Holly, like, what is, like, I have a few. Honestly, I have not been able to read as much as I wanted to. When it comes to comics, but you seem to like have more of a beat on this year than I do. So which ones like really like caught your attention? It's cool because there were a couple of like dark DC inspired movies this year. Like even though it wasn't officially a Superman story, Brightburn, was a great dark superhero story, and then obviously Joker, which became this huge phenomenon. And we're going to get into all that, trust me. But on the comic side of things too, DC has just been killing the horror game, and even outside of superheroes, I think. Like they did this miniseries, Deceased. Yeah, I heard a lot about Deceased. Covers that's inspired by horror movie, as you can see. It's the Final Destination. Yeah. But yeah, this is a Deceased it's written by Tom Taylor, drawn by Trevor Hairsine, and it's a mini series about kind of a like sort of an internet neurovirus that takes hold of people and makes them crazy, kind of like 28 Days Later style. Yeah. Except it's communicated through screens and technology, and it's one of those no holds barred, like nobody is safe. Is that a dark side plot? Everybody dies. It's not. It's just. Oh, it's not? Okay. No, it's just honestly superheroes going crazy and killing each other. A lot of people have said like it kind of rips Marvel Zombies a little bit, but I don't know. Well, they don't strike me as zombies, just more like psychopaths. Mm-hmm. No, the covers are amazing. Like I saw one with there's like a zombie like Harley like chewing on Joker's leg and shit. Like, yeah. Like, yeah. So actually, I have a DC edition as well, and that is Criminal Sanity, which is something we spoke about before. Criminal Sanity is Joker and Harley's story, which sadly only has 1 issue. Because I think there was one that was actually supposed to come out in November, and then it got pushed back to this month. But as you can see, and obviously we'll have other photos, like just the artwork in this is beautiful. It's all very realistic, and like if I had to equate it to anything, I guess, it is the fact, like Harley, she goes in a different direction, and she becomes a forensic pathologist, psychologist, and she helps like the Gotham City Police Department on crime scenes, and she knows everything about serial killers, and she mentions that like the methodologies of, say, like Ted Bundy and Ed Gein and all these different things. And the reason why is her roommate years before was actually murdered by the Joker, who in this story is like pretty much like a shadow. Like nobody really knows who he is, like he's the Buffalo Bill of the story. So if I had to equate it to anything, honestly, it feels more like Seven and Silence of the Lambs, kind of, like that kind of feel. But I'd have to say the Criminal Insanity is definitely like, that's the best of the year for me right here.
you know, just out, you know, like if you're able to like get that from one issue, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And the Black Label stuff has been just generally great.
Oh yeah, Batman Damned has been incredible. Yeah, you know, of course, there was the controversy with the bat penis.
Dumbest thing ever. It's like, dude, it's a penis. Get over it.
What else? What else is on your list for comics?
I just want to go through a couple more DC things. Even outside of Black Label, stuff like Gotham City Monsters has been a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's cool.
They put together a bunch of the monster characters, like, you know, Killer Croc and Orca and you know, some vampire characters and like there's this hilarious scene in issue 2 where Killer Croc is trying to get a job, like a legit job, and it's just one of the most hilarious, like, you know, panel, he's all hopeful and they're like, yes, we'll let you know, and the panel, he's all hopeful and like the background changes each time, so it's like a dentist's office and a grocery store and a bookstore, and it's like, and of course none of them call him because he's Killer Croc. But yeah, that series has been a lot of fun. Also, this I think warrants mentioning, they recently partnered up with Joe Hill.
Oh yeah, Joe Hill's horror offshoot for DC, right?
Hill House Comics. This is the first one, Basket Full of Heads. And there's going to be a whole bunch of them. There's also, they just released Dollhouse Family, which is by Mike Carey, one of my favorite writers. And all of them promise to be really cool. The art has been great. And they're all, actually a lot of them have sort of a retro horror feel, kind of like the 80s, like, you know, Stranger Things vibe.
Sure.
But yeah, it's all great, and it's been a while since there was that much obviously horror focused stuff at DC, so it's very exciting for me in every way imaginable, with like stuff like These Savage Shores, which is like a vampire story that takes place in India, or like The Plot, which is a cool, like, sort of family legacy gothic horror story. They have this series ongoing right now called Cult Classic Creature Feature, which is it's literally like Creepshow in a comic, essentially.
Oh, well, nice, yeah.
And then they recently released this first issue, Black Stars Above, which is just absolutely gorgeous. It's like a Lovecraftian, like, just sort of mythical.
Oh yeah, I heard of that one.
And one of my favorite writers, and a friend of mine from Black Mask, Lonnie Nadler, is the writer, and it's just brilliant. So if you haven't gotten the chance to yet, and you go to the comic shop, I highly recommend you check out anything that has Vault Comics' name on it, because chances are it's going to be great.
Let's see, anything on TV that you watched this year that's good? Because there's quite a few things.
Yeah, that sort of brings me into, I mean, what I really wanted to talk about was 2019 was the year that I first subscribed to Shudder. And let me tell you, some of the best money I've ever spent. Like I didn't used to like streaming services at all, for various reasons. One, I don't like that they can just sort of take away a movie, from their service, and you go to watch it and it's not there. That's like, I enjoy owning my media, so I can control my own experience, Plus, also, let's face it, the horror selection on Netflix generally sucks.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't deep dive back past like 2010 very far, and they have maybe like 2 or 3 old horror movies. They're like, look, we have old stuff too. But the
other thing about Netflix too, and maybe not like recently, but I know for the most part, like they seem to be the ones that like really just gave anybody a fucking shot that had had filmed a movie and canned it in some way. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of really. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like maybe you can cherry pick some good stuff out of that, but for the most part, I've seen some really, really shitty independents on Netflix. So
yeah, there are a lot of shitty, and I understand like they have to do all genres, but I would always be disappointed browsing through your Netflix horror section. So subscribing to Shudder was like a revelation. They do deep dives back into old like 70s obscure creepy shit. They do a lot of they pick up a lot of horror series from other channels, like Channel Zero, which I watched. I never used to watch TV, and I watched 2 seasons of Channel Zero like straight through. And of course, if we're going on, if we want to talk about my favorite TV of the year, we're gonna have to talk about Creepshow.
Well, hang on for a second, because like we do have to mention that Shudder. Obviously it was last year, but they continue to keep doing it. And you know what? You have my allegiance for bringing back Joe Bob Briggs for every fucking holiday. That is fucking phenomenal. Like, I never thought I'd ever see him again after Monster Vision, which is like, that's when I, really started to like, get deep into, like my Joe Bob Briggs love and fandom, you know what I mean? And, it's amazing that we get that opportunity with Shudder every.
Yeah, well, see, that's what's been so great about Shudder is they do, like, they revive things, like they take stuff that we thought would be toast or, not continue or whatever. And they're like, here, have some more. It's like, whoa. Like, even that terrible, the really cheesy, like, Critters series they did, like it was
fun. I had a good time with that,
I was just stoked to be watching Critters again, and I was laughing really hard, and it was, yeah. So kudos to you, Shudder. Thank you for bringing us lots of good television in 2019. Yeah. The best of which, or at least the one I looked forward to the most every week was Creepshow.
You're in for it now.
Why? It's the way it's supposed to be.
I was never a weekly TV watcher, even before the whole streaming thing. I wasn't very loyal to shows. I didn't sit down every week and watch one, but you could bet your ass with this new Creepshow series, every Thursday night I was sitting on my couch with a giant grin on my face waiting to see new episodes.
Well, here's the interesting thing about it, because like, there is this influx of, like, well, there's years where like, nobody wants anthologies and it's really hard to sell them. And then, like one comes out that's kind of successful and then everybody wants one. But, like we're kids of the anthology, and, good majority of the series that I'm very passionate about from, my past viewings are anthologies, like, from, like the crazy batshitness of Freddy's Nightmares to, Tales from the Crypt and, Masters of Horror and, Tales from the Dark Side to a certain extent.
Horror just lends itself so well to anthologies that there are a lot of great ones.
Yeah, but the thing about this one is like, it's really just, I mean, it's pretty much proving something that, like I think a lot of horror fans already knew, is that Greg Nicotero, aside from all the work that he's doing with Walking Dead and stuff, is truly like, he is the Padawan. He's the Padawan of George Romero that became the Jedi. Like, he is amazing, and he's grabbed every single nuance of that movie that we love, like from the color schemes to the all of it. It's amazing just to see the creep show up, and I'm just like blown away every time that comes on.
He really knocked it out of the park with Creepshow. I'm really impressed.
What have been your standout episodes? Because I've got a few.
Ooh, I loved The Finger with Bob. Because I thought DJ Qualls was perfectly cast, and I loved the way he kept breaking the fourth wall in that episode. And of course, the creature, Bob, is just fantastic. Stop motion Bob. I mean, they use stop motion for that guy. That in itself is awesome. And the other episode I loved.
That one where they're kicking that fucking guy, in the suitcase down the steps with the coin.
That was trippy as fuck.
I was laughing my ass off.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was the one where it was the one where the townspeople like shove the governor and all of his like lackeys up through like holes in a stadium, and they get devoured by zombies.
Yeah. Oh man, what is that called?
What the hell? I had no idea what was going on for the first like half of that episode, and then it got to the end, and I was like, "This is bonkers." I love it.
Yeah, I even like the World War II episode. I know a lot of people complained about it. They're like, "There's no fucking werewolf really in this one," Like, okay, well, it's still good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with World War II werewolves. You just can't.
No, you certainly cannot. Rob Zombie, get going on Werewolf Women. Seriously.
Yeah.
Make it your next movie, for God's sakes. So yeah, I would definitely agree that Creepshow is on the top of my list for sure in terms of TV, 100%. And obviously it got picked up for a second season already, which is exciting. You know, and it's cool too because, like, you know, I mean, to be fair, from what I understand, you're not getting a lot of funding financially from fucking Shudder. Like, if you have a show on there, you know, like, I think Joe Bob might get paid, like, you know, packing peanuts and whatever the executive, you know, has in their pockets, you know, on that particular day. I don't know, but there's just not a lot of money, you know. But Shudder is definitely, like, it's amazing, you know, that we live in a world where we have like a horror streaming service, you know. It's kind of great, and it really softens the blow for somebody like myself. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, I miss the hell out of going to like Blockbuster every Friday and
Oh yeah,
all that stuff. That was like religion almost, you know, when we did that.
yeah.
So it's cool that we have those options at home.
How about you? Did you watch it? What other TV did you watch?
Actually, I wanted to give a shout out to, you know, I had mentioned Castle Rock season 2. There's really not much to say about it. And it's just like, it's so fucking epic what they're doing with it. And, you know, we're 2 episodes in to the season finale. And they haven't really played into the idea if Annie is actually Annie from Misery. I don't know if she's actually going to, you know, grow up and, you know, like kidnap Paul Sheldon. I don't know if that's the thing. But it's just really great what they're doing. And I really loved that. I think it was a fan that actually tweeted Kathy Bates on Twitter, and she came back and said Lizzie Kaplan is, capital letters, Annie Wilkes, and I feel very oogie inside when I see her.
Yeah.
So Castle Rock season 2 is definitely there. I do want to give a shout out to the 10th season of The Walking Dead. I mean, you know, I know it's gotten a lot of flack over the years, and you know, I've been a loyal audience member for 10 fucking years.
The people you sent out, they're in trouble. Trapped in a cave where Alpha has placed her horde.
We don't know if any of this is real.
And you know, like, there's times where, you know, things got a little like choppy, and you know,
You never dropped off once. You never dropped off.
Never watched it?
I did. I watched the first 2 seasons, and then I started watching again when Jeffrey Dean Morgan showed up because I love him. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just been sort of choppy, like episodes here and there, not whole seasons all the way through. So
I think this season's like, it's just been remarkable. What they've been doing with it. The new executive producer, Angela Kang, like, really like has a bead on story, and you know, like, she made the Whisperers like absolutely, like, you know, terrifying. They're a threat, you know, to be reckoned with. And another thing that I really love about it is, like, you know, even now, you know, 10 years, like, you know, we have a show at 9:00 at night on AMC, and there's literally been scenes where like people are getting their faces, like, you know, torn off, you know, like with huge butcher knives. And there was an episode where Negan just beat the shit out of this fucking 19-year-old kid with a rock. And like, you know, usually those kind of shows like pan away and go like, oh, we're just gonna leave that to your imagination. Not this one.
Yeah.
You saw every hit when he was doing that. And it's just amazing to me that we still have a show like that exists, you know. Who would ever think, you know, in our wildest dreams, that we would have an ongoing Night of the Living Dead story that never ends? It's pretty awesome. And this season's been great. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan's a standout, and Samantha Morton, who plays Alpha, is you know, she's just one for the books. I mean, I think she's definitely going to be a villain that a lot of people talk about for a long, long time. Norman Reedus even has been on the top of his game, and he's kind of, you know, he's sort of taken the reins, like, you know, quite a bit, you know, considering the fact that they never really got into it yet. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are leaving, like Danae is leaving, you know, and they're kind of giving her that plot line, you know, that thread to be able to kind of exit out a little bit. And then there's people coming back, like, you know, Lauren Cohen is coming back as Maggie. It just seems like they've got all their ducks in a row. And it's amazing to me that you can remain that cohesive through, you know, like almost a decade of storytelling, you know, and not lose a breath. You know, it's pretty spectacular. I love The Walking Dead. This season's gonna probably be up there as one of the best, for sure. What about you?
Like I said before, I'm not much of a TV watcher. I did discover a couple of new things on Shudder. Like I said, like I haven't watched the new season of Channel Zero yet, but those seasons that I watched on Shudder, it used to be on Sci-Fi, and then Shudder picked it up and added new seasons.
Yeah.
Have you ever been confused about whether something you remember was a dream or not? A memory so strange, it couldn't be real.
Basically, if you don't know the premise of Channel Zero, is they take, each season takes a famous creepypasta from the internet and turns it into a lengthy, detailed story.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I'm not much of a TV watcher. I don't binge shows like a lot of people. But as soon as I got Shudder and I started getting into Channel Zero, I was just every night, bam, bam, bam.
Oh wow.
Okay. So shout out to that show for keeping me on it.
When I was little, I used to lie awake at night thinking about all the bad things that could happen. So I made up a protector. You should run. Somehow he's real. And he's trying to kill you. He made me feel safe.
Stranger Things season 3.
You let us in. And now,
again, I was a fan from the beginning, and you know, like it's kind of interesting. It's like like sometimes things happen in pop culture now where it's like, you know, hey, do you remember where you were when the Beatles, like, you know, invaded, you know, the US? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what Stranger Things felt like. I remember that day. You know what I mean? Like, because nobody was online, nobody was answering their phones, and nobody knew what the fuck this show even was in the beginning, but everybody was watching it, you know? So by the time we got to season 3, obviously, like the kids are older, and you know, the you know, I want to say, you know, the older actors, the mature actors are more established, you know, like in terms of their careers and stuff, you know, because of, you know, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
You know, it just, but it was just amazing to me that they were able to take that story and like, you know, kind of like, you know, add this whole like, you know, teen love storyline into like, you know, like this, I mean, it was like fucking, it was like Magnum P.I. with Hopper and Winona Ryder meets like, kind of like Red Dawn, you know, like, oh my God. And I'll tell you what, like I've seen a lot of shows and a lot of episodes this year, but I broke at the end of that last, when he's writing that letter to 11, when obviously like everybody thinks that Hopper is deceased. That fucking hit me because I am a parent, and, just the whole thing about like, you know, being in caves and, you know, like, oh God, did you watch season 3?
I haven't watched season 3 yet. I caught up on season 1 and 2 this year. I really enjoyed both, but I have not yet watched season 3. So
no. Oh well, then I said some shit that you probably shouldn't have heard. That.
I don't care about spoil. Spoil me.
But yeah, no, Stranger Things season 3 is fantastic, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't say I wasn't as deeply invested in season 2, but it just kind of felt like a rehash of season 1, to, you know, to certain extents, you know, in terms of plot. But this one, it brought me back. It really did. It was really, really well done. And I'm excited for season 4, you know, and it's great that, you know, that you have a show, where you just don't know anything at all, like going into it, you know, like I get really like, dude, I've never had a show where like they literally like have a day where the Duffer Brothers just like introduce logos to us and you're like, right? Titles.
We'll have after the first season came out, and like literally everybody was putting everything ever into the title font, like just it didn't matter what it was.
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking about when they drop the titles of every episode, and you're like, hey! And you have no idea what they mean, but you're still like super, like totally stoked for them. You're like, oh, pumpkin patch! Oh, that's got to mean something, you know, like.
Yeah.
Mom?
Who am I?
You are a gift. We believe that you came here for a reason.
Brightburn, which I think for both of us is definitely on our best of list for the year.
Absolutely. I loved it.
What are your thoughts on it?
It's almost like, it's like, yes, it exists in a pop cultural context and wouldn't really exist, you know, outside of that whole Superman myth. But I felt like that's part of what made it satisfying in a way. Like, like you're watching it and you're seeing, you know, his powers develop, and you're seeing everything develop, and to see it play out in such a different way, to me, in such a brutal way, is just, I just thought it was brilliant. Like because you knew what to expect going in, and it completely delivered every time. And it was, yeah. I just plus the mask that he made for himself to wear, creepy as shit. And yeah, I just loved all of it.
Well, there's a couple things I want to say about Brightburn, because, you know, like you can look at it, you know, from a linear standpoint, you know, and you've got like, you know, like this evil, like, you know, like, hey, what if Superman, you know, did this as opposed to this? And I disagree with that, actually. I think that child was an apex predator. I think he was like here to pretty much like, you know, investigate, you know, like humanity, and you know, like, but he also had that, you know, mentality, almost like, you know, some sort of like, you know, insect or something that like, you know, I'm going to tear you apart too. I don't think it was just like, you know, he just walked into a bar and he heard something and then all of a sudden he fucking snapped and went psychotic. I don't think it's like a Michael Myers with the cape at all. I think there's a deeper rooted story there in terms of his origins. And I think in that regard, it's brilliant, because actually there was a scene where he was literally dissecting a person, you know, with pins and everything, like, you know, like she was like some sort of butterfly, like on a.
Well, yeah, and they do pay a large amount of attention to insects in scenes at the beginning when he's in class, and they're talking about like predators and bees and all sorts of insect behavior. So that could be.
And listen, I will say this, you know, to her credit, because I know I made a joke the other day, you know, about like, you know, I'm a man and, you know, I shouldn't say anything because, you know, Elizabeth Banks says so, you know, but I think she's a phenomenal artist. I think she's an amazing actor, and, you know, her playing the mother role in this, like, you know, I think, you know, really just, you know, showed her true talent. You know, aside from, you know, like the comedy stuff that she's done, and I'm sure she's done, you know, of course she's done other stuff like Hunger Games and whatnot. And I really hope she redeems herself with The Invisible Woman. Just going to say that. You know, Charlie's Angels is a horrible property.
I don't know why they made another one. I don't. Like, why would you touch that again?
It was really never a good show.
I don't understand.
But I digress. I love Brightburn, and I love that even though it had to do with, I think it was actually like one of the brothers of James Gunn, you could see his influence all over this movie for sure, you know. And it kind of had like, you know, a little bit of an indie feel to it. Like it felt like, you know, very low budget to a certain degree. But like, you know, the things that they were able to do, you know, with you know, the cinematography and the color schemes and everything was just, you know, like it's great. I love Brightburn.
The color schemes were definitely a standout as well.
Yeah, and
the lights in the barn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and honestly, like, you know, there's only been a few things that really kind of made me go, ooh, you know, but that scene with the glass in the eyeball, that's gonna stand the test of time, I think, in terms of gorehounds. Like that's fucking nuts. Like I've seen, like, you know.
I was thinking about the scene where the guy gets dropped in the truck and his jaw's hanging on the floor.
Yeah.
Woo! Dang.
But just that scene where she's literally like peeling a piece of glass from her pupil, like, and you hear it going, and you're like, ah! There was some really cool shit in there, you know, like the fact that, like, you know, he was just exploding people, and there was some good shit. And, you know, like, I think it was expected it was going to happen, but, like, you know, when mommy goes for that little ride, super effective.
Oh, yes.
Super effective. And who played the father, too? He was great in it also. There's a lot of...
Oh, yeah, I don't remember his name. I have to look it up.
Yeah, but the kid did a phenomenal job, and, you know, I dare I say it's one of the best... Oh God, I don't even want to call it a villain story. I just call it, you know, like a superhero. It's a superhero horror. It's what it is. Yeah. And I hope that, you know, tradition carries on, you know, for years and years to come, because I love that new subgenre. I
want more of it. I know you do, because, well, your number one movie of the year is another one that's I guess could be considered. That
could be contested, but we'll see. What's your next one on the list for movies this year?
Actually, I watched this really cool indie flick that Dark Sky Films sent me a review copy of. Thank you, Dark Sky Films. It's a movie from the UK called Possum.
Mother, father, what's afoot? Only possum black as soot. Mother, father, where to tread? Far from possum and his head. Here's a bag, now what's inside? Does he seek or does he hide? Can you spy him deep within? Little possum, black as sin.
Oh,
I'm not sure if you've heard of it or watched it. All I had seen was the cover art, and I knew immediately I had to watch it. It's a super weird movie. It's about a puppeteer whose, you know, prize puppet is this spider thing. It's like a doll head with actual like furry spider legs attached.
Oh, what the fuck? Really?
And yeah, it's creepy. It's creepy as hell. And that's what the poster was. It was a bag with the spider legs coming out, and you're like, what is this movie? Why are there spiders? And throughout the film, he keeps trying to get rid of the puppet, like, you know, leave it in a field somewhere or whatever. But it keeps showing back up. It keeps, you know, coming back into his bag, and so he can't get rid of it. He can't leave it.
Yeah.
And there are a whole bunch of other layers to the story, but I would recommend that you don't even Google any stills from this film. Just look for Possum. It's not on any streaming services, I don't think. Maybe on Amazon Prime.
And you might have dreamt it.
You know, in my review that I wrote the next day, I wrote, you know, this movie was so dreamlike that I don't remember which parts of the movie were real and which parts
Or maybe you just kind of fell asleep in the middle or something.
No, I don't think I did. I was pretty freaked out. But yeah, no, I recommend don't look up anything about the film. Just grab a copy or find it and just start watching. Because the less you know about it, the better it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was great. It was dreamlike and creepy, and don't watch it if you're afraid of spiders.
God. Well, since we're technically talking about animals, let's I'm gonna put Crawl on my list. You know, it's interesting, like, you know, when you hear a concept, it just, you know, this doesn't really grab your attention. We're just kind of like, you know, oh, Alexandre Aja and Sam Raimi are fucking getting together to produce a fucking animal attack movie about alligators. Like, that's yeah, you know. But I'll tell you what.
The state of Florida has issued a Category 5 hurricane warning. All residents must evacuate immediately. Grab your families, your loved ones, and get out.
Dad!
We won't be able to come for you.
Dad!
went into Crawl with no expectations whatsoever. I'm not a huge fan of animal attack movies at all, like Piranha and all that shit. I just, it's just one thing I don't get into. But this one really fucking surprised me because, first of all, the acting was really super, like to me, it was like top notch, like, to many, many degrees. They weren't phoning that in at all. The other great thing about it was that, these alligators, obviously, like, they're a species that, have been here, like, way before we have. But these particular alligators, like, they just wanted to fucking kill you. You know what I mean? Like, there was something off about them, like it was, you can almost see, like, there was kind of like a change in their eyes or whatever. And there's no supernatural elements in this story whatsoever. These fucking things are just like, it's like Michael Myers with a tail. Like, they are fucking voracious. And like, and if you have flesh on you, like, they just want to rip it off. And it was just so fucking well done. And, kind of had these, like, panic room elements to it, like, different, like, set changes and stuff, as like certain, parts of the room flood. And then, then there's like, situations of, there was actually one thing that really bothered me about Crawl, though. Just one little simple gripe that I had was that, I don't know. It was just something that her dad said to her, like, when she was young, because she's a champion swimmer, and, I guess that's kind of like, the only real connect that we're supposed to get. 'Cause, like, we're supposed to see this, daughter and father that are kind of, they're not kind of, but they're estranged, you know what I mean? So, like, he basically, like, through the situation, like, they're surviving together, and he just says something to her that's, like, just really kind of hokey to me. I can't remember what it was, though. Like, like, you're a fucking warrior or something. You're a winner or something like that, like.
Well, I have not yet seen Crawl, but it's definitely on my list, and I'm really excited about it. And I think it sort of has, I think the appeal of animal attack stories like that is that even though you sort of technically know that animals aren't really like that, and they're not really just going to murder willy-nilly, it's like there's still that possibility, like the Jaws kind of thing, where it's like, yes, sharks can get that big. They usually don't, but they can. And they don't usually attack people, but they could. It's that whole what if scenario that I think always freaks people out and still works in movies.
Come on, you son of a bitch!
Kind of reminded me of another one. There was another animal attack movie from years ago that I loved, and it was called Burning Bright. But that was the father actually trying to kill his fucking children by letting a tiger loose in the house. Like, that was pretty wild. Have you seen that one?
Wow, I have not.
Oh my god.
That sounds nuts.
Yeah. It basically, so there's, like, that one was, kind of the same thing. There's a natural disaster and stuff, but you find out that this dad, like, pretty much, like, was using this natural disaster to, like, mask this, other, like, grand scheme of his, which is, like, somehow this tiger gets loose in this fucking house with his kids inside the fucking house. So, yeah.
That sounds nuts. I have to put that on my list. What's it called? It's called Burning
Bright. Yeah.
As in after the
Tiger Burning Bright. Yeah.
Speaking of tigers and Shudder, did you watch Tigers Are Not Afraid?
I love Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Yeah. I loved it too, and I don't know if it's. I mean, I couldn't really call it horror except for the the segments with her dead mother coming back and the ghosts sort of pawing at her. But
there's so many ways you can go about that story, though. I mean, obviously the horror is within, like, do you notice, like, our voices got all serious? This is a serious fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing about, like, Tigers Not Afraid is, you know, like obviously the horror is like, you know, within, you know, the lives of these children and the, you know, the situation that they have to endure. And
amazing young actors, just incredible.
Yeah, they really are. And just the fact that, you know, like that actually goes on out there. Like, you know, like these drug czars like just take over certain areas, and it's like a Mad Max war zone, you know. And there's some just really serious scenes in that movie that, you know, like might choke me up even talking about them, because, you know, like it really is intense. And, you know, you know, at its core, it's also kind of a love story, but these kids are too young to even realize that they're really in love. You know what I mean? Like, it's so multifaceted, you know, in regards to like, you know, it's emotionality and, you know, the connection to these kids, and, you know, this young girl that kind of has this, like, you know, she has this intent to be, you know, like as young as she is, she's like a mother to these kids, you know. And then of course there's some really fucked up scenes in this movie that do make it horror, aside from the supernatural elements and all that. But you don't even really know if they're real either, you know. It could be like, you know,
there's a lot of ambiguity in the film that I really appreciate.
It could just be like, you know, the fact that these kids like haven't eaten in fucking days and they're starving and they're just eating things is like, you know, manifestation. Totally. You know what I mean? It's a wonderful fucking movie, but it's a journey that I say take with caution, because it's not a joyride at all.
No, not at all.
What else did you have to say about Tigers Are Not Afraid?
Oh, just, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I love the ambiguity of the magic realism. I love the fact that her making the wishes, for the most part, the wishes aren't like giant miracles. Mm-hmm. They're like freak accidents that just happen to fit whatever wish she made. Mm-hmm. You know, I love the graffiti scenes. Mm-hmm. You know, just spray painting themselves on the walls. It's haunting more so than scary.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it powerful.
Yeah, I would really be hard pressed to call that, you know, just a straight up horror. I was really surprised that it was even on Shudder at all, honestly. But, you know, then we'll get into the situation of, you know, like having the conversation of like, you know, well, you know, like one man's horror is another person's, you know, this, and you know, I know it's a whole thing. I get it. Yeah. But if you're looking for like a, you know, like a feel good slasher or you know, or something like that, you're going to be really, really disappointed. But if you're into like really masterfully done artsy cinema,
stuff like The Devil's Backbone.
Cinema.
It's stuff like The Devil's Backbone that has a supernatural element but isn't ultimately about.
100%, yeah. And I think actually Guillermo was executive producer on this too, right?
Oh, was he really? Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I think he did have his hand in this in some way.
Yeah.
Highly recommended for sure. Man, I'm gonna really, you know, take a hot nuclear take shit right now, and I'm gonna add one just for fun, because a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, fucking, you know, whatever. But just for entertainment value, just for the fact that I really, really enjoy those other two movies and I love those characters, and I kind of really dig the journey that they took, and the, you know, fact that Richard Brake got to, you know, come in as the, you know, the brother that nobody knew about. I'm gonna say 3 from Hell.
3 from Hell. Oh man.
I'm gonna say 3 from Hell. I don't know. And you know, one of the main things that I really love about it is that the people that did love this movie, the thing that I really enjoyed about it is that I personally always thought that Sherry had the chops to act.
Yeah.
That's just me. And a lot of people would disagree.
So we're just gonna, jump right to something that gave us grave concern. Since your time of incarceration, you've had 157 violations. The
158.
Okay. Yep. 158. The most recent being, you were found in possession of a inmate manufactured weapon.
1 second. Do you understand that these statistics do not reflect positively on these proceedings?
Look, Sue, I gotta do what I gotta do.
And oh, she's just shoehorned in because she's Rob Zombie's wife or whatever the fuck people think. But the one thing that I really loved about Three from Hell is that she was the standout in the movie.
Oh,
and a lot of people that really loved the movie.
Absolutely, all the way.
Yeah, and a lot of people that really loved the movie all said the same thing. And it was honestly the first time where I heard oh my God, I want to see Sherry Moon play Harley Quinn. I want to see her do this. I want to see her do this. Outside, different elements of different industries and whatnot, different genres. That really touched my heart because I think she's super fucking talented. And it was originally supposed to be the last movie that Sid Haig was in, but there was a trailer that came out today for a movie called Hanukkah, and I guess that's his last film. But I'm going to pretty much fucking guess that people are going to wish that this was his last film. Just saying.
Do you know if the Hanukkah was filmed before or after Three from Hell?
I have no idea. I never heard anything about it. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. I thought Three from Hell was Sid's last.
Okay, Three from Hell it's spiritually his last film. Put it that way.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it's his last film. But yeah, I just had so much fun with it, and I'm a fan of classic film and classic directors and stuff, and I could see I can see Rob channeling all that really fun stuff, not even fun stuff, but really memorable styles of filmmaking, from Sam Peckinpah or the Women in Prison films, or all these different things. It was a lot of fun.
Mexican heist movies at the end when the luchador bodyguards come out. Crazy shit. Yeah.
I just had a blast with it, man. I thought they worked really well together, and the fact that Richard Brake had to fill those big ass fucking clown shoes, I think he did a great job. I think and I actually interviewed Richard Brake, and I told him, I said, you know what, this is how fucking crazy I am. I probably hang out with the Firefly family, and he goes, well, that makes me like you a lot more, or something like that, and
Well, I would like to just give a short shout out, a list of movies that I have not seen from this year, but I know just as soon as I see them, I'm going to love them.
Great.
I've got The Lighthouse, which I haven't seen. Daniel Isn't Real, which is an indie film. It's supposed to be fantastic. I haven't seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark yet, which I'm really looking forward to. The Lovecraft film, The Color Out of Space, just because hardly anybody makes Lovecraft movies, and it's really ballsy.
I think that's still making the festival round, so you're good on that one.
Yeah. And Ready or Not, which I also haven't seen, but I hear is fantastic. And also The Lodge, which is the new Hammer film.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so out of that list right there, I don't want to get too much into it because you just can't. It's just so difficult. But Like, I'm a huge fucking Robert Eggers fan. I love Robert Eggers. I've loved him. I love The Witch. It's like one of my favorite fucking horror movies of all time. I love The Lighthouse.
What made your last keeper leave?
He believed that there was some enchantment in the light. Went mad, he did. Tall tales. What?
And as I think I put it in a post one time, it was basically like, the only way to describe this is like if Hemingway, and God, I can't remember what I put. Oh, it was actually Homer. It was the Odyssey, because there's a lot of kind of like this. There's this Greek mythology kind of connected into this story with these two lone gentlemen, and like the lighthouse is a representation of like the light is very powerful, but just the performances of Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, which honestly, I am so fucking sick and tired of hearing about him being in Twilight that, like it really makes me want to spit, because that guy he's
such a great actor.
Hands down, one of the best actors of this generation. No question. He's proved it time and time again. I have no doubt he's going to be an incredible Batman that everybody's going to talk about for 25 fucking years, or more. He's wonderful. And the things that he did in this movie were so daring. Same thing with Willem Dafoe, but we know Willem Dafoe do anything, he'll drop horse cock. You know what I mean? We already know that.
What? 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 Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
All right, have it your way.
But yeah, it's just so frenetic and insane and just like beautifully shot, and the black and white just makes it so like thrilling but also kind of alarming at the same time. There's this potential of like a homosexual thread, maybe, like could be, kind of thing. It just, it talks about sex and identity and, just all kinds of like really dark shit, like, just like insanity. And then there's like this whole other thing that I don't want to get into, because it would take you a day to explain this movie. The Lighthouse is fucking brilliant. And Robert Eggers, as young as that guy is, he's a fucking master already. There's no question about it. That is one guy that'll always give us not only top-notch horror entertainment. I mean, God, like he does The Witch, and like, like even something as simple as like a goat becomes supremely iconic. Everybody knows about Black Phillip, that loves that movie, and just like different elements of his work that like really kind of bleed into the culture. Yeah, The Lighthouse is definitely one for the ages, not even just this year. I loved it. It was phenomenal.
I'm the projectionist, the curator of 100 years of nightmares, trapped in a silver screen that never forgets. Welcome to my nightmare.
Did you watch Nightmare Cinema? Mick Garris's Nightmare Cinema anthology movie?
Not yet, no.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
No, I did not watch it yet. All right. So, all right, I'll just throw a couple more out there. We talked about Ready or Not before. I think Samara Weaving is a national treasure. I think in this genre, she should be held as high as, somebody like, Jamie Lee Curtis. Honestly, like she's definitely one that's gonna just continue to big leaps in her career. And I love that she's really kind of stepping into the genre full time.
I can't believe that in half an hour, I will be a part of the Ladomus Gaming Dynasty Empire.
Dominion. We prefer Dominion.
I honestly can't wait to be a part of your family.
Good luck. What the hell is this? How old is this thing?
I know you're in here.
Oh, Jesus. You shot the maid.
Does she look like she's wearing a giant white wedding dress, Emily?
And today's video is called Getting to Know Your Crossbow.
I forgot my gun.
Why don't you just use mine?
Mr. Ladomus, I just saw her running.
Oh my God!
Oh, fuck your fucking family!
You're just another sacrifice.
Do you think this is a fucking game?
Yes, hide and seek. Remember?
He wanted to get married.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That directing duo that did Ready or Not, they call themselves Radio Silence. I hope we hear more from them. I hope, at some point we can get a movie where the character that Samara Weaving Grace comes back in some fashion, because that's probably one of the greatest survival girls I've seen in the last 5 years. She's awesome. She's really memorable, and, just that whole interplay of, I wouldn't necessarily call it a big shocker or whatever, but, she's marrying into this this super rich family, and it turns out she's dirt fucking poor. I love that aspect of it. So there is that, that culture class, that class, conversation, within the movie or whatever. It's not drilled into your head, but yeah, Ready or Not's definitely on my list. Dr. Sleep, everybody knows that, I love Dr. Sleep. I think it was, masterful. We're just going to continue to hear more and more, about Mike Flanagan and his work. Everything he wants to do, give it to him. If he wants to do Nightmare on Elm Street, let him have the fucking franchise. That's all I have to say about that. And I also loved that he just mentioned in an interview recently that he was actually, he was kind of in the position to potentially direct the Halloween 2018 that came out. And he said, honestly, I didn't take it because my Halloween would have been Hush, his movie Hush that he did with his wife. And Hush is incredible. So yeah, I already knew if he was to touch Halloween, it would have been great. So there's really not much to say. And Rose the Hart, I fucking love you. Rebecca Ferguson, I will watch everything you're in. I don't care what it is. Period. Comedy. I'm just in love with that character. Rose the Hat is just amazing. Which brings us to our last movie, which is really honestly no surprise for anybody. And some people might say, you know what? Why are you talking about this on a horror show? Well, because I have my feelings on this film, and I definitely feel it is part of the genre in many regards, and that is the billion-dollar-plus masterpiece Joker. Holly, do you have anything to say about Joker?
I haven't gotten to see it yet, but
Yeah.
I chose not to see it in the theater because from what I could gather about the film, it struck me as the kind of movie that I would enjoy more watching by myself than with a group. Mm-hmm. I tend to enjoy those really brutal psychological descents more if I'm on my own, because it's just it's like you get surrounded by it and it sort of infiltrates your own head,
yeah,
as well as the head of the character on screen, and So I'm really looking forward to it hitting streaming and DVD, because it's going to be a really good experience, I think, to watch in my living room.
This month. In fact, I think it comes out maybe a couple days. And yeah, it's a couple days after we air this episode. So it's on streaming this month, and then it's on DVD, Blu-ray in January. And that's fantastic. I love that movies come out as quick as they do now. Honestly,
it's so crazy, right? Like it's like 3 months now. So
yeah. So I never get when people like scream and cry and they go, "I haven't seen that movie." Like, dude, you got to wait 2 months. Like, that's it. If that, if it's a big movie, it could be out a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Chill. Yeah, but Joker is not only. All right, sit down, guys, because I'm about to suck this movie's dick pretty hard.
I think you haven't been doing that already a lot.
Joker is not just one of the best movies of this year. It's one of the best movies I've seen in my life. Like, it is definitely like, it's bumped out, like a movie like in my mental library in terms of like, my favorites of all time. Simply because, well, there's a few reasons. It's not just the fact that it's about Joker. I think the thing that's most fascinating about it is that, if you take those elements out, if you take out the Gotham City element, if you take out all these different elements that we know from the lore of Batman, that movie still fucking works. It's just, it's the breakdown of a man who, it's just every man, at that particular point. It doesn't necessarily, I think that's why they never really kind of played into, his name is Arthur Fleck. We don't know that, character from the comics. And, again, we don't really know who the Joker is. That's the whole point of that character. He's so mysterious, and we only know like bits and pieces of his life. But, it really is, it's more than just a comic book origin story for a villain. It's more than just a nod to, the work of Martin Scorsese, which, whatever, I get it. That's like the cheapest, thing to like pull from that movie. Like, yeah, it's sort of like Taxi Driver. It's sort of like this. I mean, but just like those movies, I mean, it's really kind of sad, obviously, that, we have to have this conversation, but, it is a conversation. And the reason I think it was so successful is because that's the fucking world we live in. It plays into what we're in, what we're dealing with now with, with the mass shootings and all that stuff. And, and again, just like other, like, people like in film, like Alex DeLarge from Clockwork Orange, and, like the list goes on and on. You're not supposed to really fall in love with this character. That's not the point. The whole thing is like you don't want to be this character, Yeah. Rob, like, why are we talking about this on a horror talk show? Okay, well, here's why. Because it is horror. I see more William Lustig's Maniac and American Psycho more than I see Taxi Driver and all these different things that were referenced, like in terms of the fandom. The fact, just like Patrick Bateman, where you see all these things going on in this guy's life, you don't necessarily know if it's real, if it's really going on. That was the point with American Psycho, is that Patrick Bateman could have been anybody. He was just as, like as plastic as everybody else. So he could have been like, he could have been short, he could have been bald, he could have been fat, he could have been whatever, but you're just seeing this, like, this Adonis of a man, because that's what he sees. You see what I'm saying? And, so a lot of like, the stuff that goes on, and I'm trying not to spoil anything for you, because it can very easily happen. But, everything that goes on in this guy's life, you don't necessarily know if it's really happening in real time. You don't know if it's just something that's in his head. And honestly, you don't know if any of this goes down the way it's supposed to go down. In terms of his, his metamorphosis, to become this, particular person. And it just works on every level. It's called a work of art for a reason, and it made billions of dollars, it made $1 billion for a reason. you know, so obviously we're not going to be able to, you know, wish you a happy new year, but, you know, we wish you guys all the best, and thank you for your continued love and support. You know, please like, share, and subscribe on the HorrorWeb YouTube channel. We've got a lot of new shows coming for to the YouTube channel. Holly and I are actually going to be doing a podcast starting in 2020, Dungeons with Deadly Delights podcast. Not necessarily the same thing. I would probably call the podcast a little more Howard Stern than what we're doing on YouTube. We get to really be balls out and talk about whatever we want to talk about, which will be fun. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, all that stuff. And from all of us at the Dungeons with Deadly Delights, we'll see you in 2020, and we'll scare you later. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.